Welcome to Beyond the Brink, the show that dives headfirst into exploring global events that are pushing people to their limits and driving them to the brink of change. My name is Christy, and I'm here with my co-host, Melissa.
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you, Melissa. You know, we're completely on opposite coast, so it takes just a moment to say hello to each other. So Beyond the Brink has reached its 3-month anniversary. We can't believe that. That's so incredible.
So exciting.
So what we thought we would do today is have a recap of some of our shows that we've done up to now. And gosh, when we've gone back through some of those shows, it's all I can say is, wow, we've been down some rabbit holes, haven't we?
Yes, we have. We sure have.
Now, before we kick off things, if you're tuning in on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, would you give us a like, a thumbs up, a rumble, if you will?
A subscribe.
And a subscribe. Yes, ma'am. We'd really appreciate it. And gosh, we just cannot thank you enough for all the support that you've given us and the constructive feedback and the suggestions for interviews. Thank you so much. Now, if you're listening on the radio, don't worry, we've got you covered too. You can catch up on all of our previous episodes at vitabroadcastnetwork.com. And you can find us on your favorite platform or your podcast platform like audio.com, Spotify, Podbean. So just use the handle at Vita Broadcast. So let's dive in. Let's get this show on the road. So it's been an incredible ride.
It really has. I can't even, when we first started this channel, we started talking about what we wanted to do. I never imagined we'd be this far, this fast, in 3 months. Although, I mean, sometimes for people, time goes by slowly, but I think these past 3 months have flown by, and we are so fortunate with the interviews that we've had so far, and the support. And one of the things I want to say is for those of you that are new, thank you so much for expressing interest and subscribing to our channel. We really want to provide content that you are interested in, and we look forward to suggestions that you have. If you can keep those suggestions coming, and constructive criticism is fine. Give us a little thumbs up and encouragement. But we just are so thankful that you are checking us out, and you thought we were worthy of a like and a follow. So I don't know about you, Christy, but it just it really makes me feel happy that we're able to do put some different perspectives out there, and maybe put some content out for folks that may have not heard this stuff before, or provide content and resources for people that have been looking into this, and maybe give them a little leg up on furthering that. What do you think about that?
Well, I think so too, because if we look back on how this thing started in the first place, I mean, Beyond the Brink is all about being pushed to your limits. And I know both of us have been pushed to our limits. We have been educating ourselves about what's been going on probably prior to 2020. Definitely 2020 was a deep dive, but it was the deep dive of 2020 was an awareness for many years beforehand. But at 2020, something just snapped, like, this is serious stuff. We have a pandemic. Our government shut us down and locked us in our homes, if you will, shut us out of churches, shut us out of public functions. What if you went to a park, you had to have a 6-foot circle around you of all crazy stuff when we think back on it now.
Don't forget about the masks with the eating mask.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it's okay. You can eat. You can go into a restaurant with a mask. It's okay to lift the mask to eat. It's like, okay, the virus is going to take a break. It's crazy. And the asymptomatic spread and all of this stuff, all of the fear porn that they were putting on us. And I say they, because it has come from all facets of our government and our media, social, mainstream media, social media, you name it. And I think a lot of us, me included, bit hook, line, and sinker. But it didn't take long to wake up and said, you know what? This just doesn't make sense. And then I know for myself, I had to check myself and say, gosh, how much have I been just too trusting? Trusting. I couldn't believe that the people that we have elected and entrusted to look after our sovereignty was doing this to us and have been doing this for a long time is kind of got me doggone ticked off. And I want to talk about it.
Well, and you mentioned 2020, and the thing that popped in my head was, they don't call it 2020 vision for nothing, right? I think it's kind of ironic that
Yes.
a lot of people started seeing some things in 2020. And you're right. There's been an awful lot of fear pushed, all kinds of areas. I mean, not just with health, but just from A to Z, fear. And fear is a liar. Fear is a liar, and it is a way to cripple folks from doing many things. I mean, even, if you can make somebody fearful to get in contact with their loved ones and hang out with them, you're stopping the relationship that they have with other folks. And I think that's in an effort to prevent people from communicating with one another on deeper level. Because if you're only talking with someone on text or email or whatever, your words don't come across maybe the same as they would in person.
Right.
You can't physically feel the vibe that's coming off the person. You can't see the body language. And, people get sassy, right? And I think for some of the folks that were kind of going through this stuff, I don't know that they intended to be so, what do I want to say, off-putting to others and, I don't know, ostracizing, because they were so fearful. But I am glad to see that a lot of them are starting to kind of come back around and realize that maybe some of the stuff that we were told isn't quite so true. And, I don't know, that's a tough subject. And I'm glad to see that there's more and more people out there seeking information. And that is the whole premise of this show, is to provide a place where people feel comfortable. We're not always going to talk about something that maybe someone agrees with, right? They might not like every single thing that we talk about. And we might not agree with every single one of our guests that come on either in the future, but we want to provide a platform where we can have a discussion like we, I don't know. I never noticed it before, Christy. When I was younger, you used to be able to talk to people. You used to be able to have like healthy debate and joking, and oh, so and so, this person, she's like, and it wasn't something where you have to like bite your nails in the room and go like, are they going to label me? So
it's terrible. I have a little list of things, if you will indulge me. So
absolutely,
we had the great pandemic, which we all know came out of a lab. It was planned. We know that now.
World Economic Forum, right?
Yeah. Yep. And some other players involved with that. We had a worldwide shutdown. We had mandated masking. I'm reading off the list right now. Mandated vaccination, travel restrictions, supply chain interruptions from computer parts, cars, and food, business closing, the introduction of programmable money, the Great Reset. It's no longer a secret. Toilet paper and paper towel shortages, eggs, I mean, you name it. Worldwide protests, truckers were caravanning and having their accounts shut down because they were protesting. We had war, false flags, inflation, collapsing economies, tyranny, mysterious fires at food processing plants, train derailments, freezing protesters' banking accounts, just like I just said, and on. And now they're coming for the children. They have been coming for the children for a long time, but they're not hiding it anymore. Hey,
No, they're not.
If you are part of the LGBTQ community, that's fine. That's your business. But when people in that group is coming out and saying, we are coming for your children, that's where we have issues.
Yeah.
Because this grandma is like a grandma bear, and that is not okay. And I really don't want to be called something that I'm not. I don't want to be given a new name for something. I'm a chick. I'm a female, and I'm good with that.
Yeah.
And I want to respect those who have a different opinion. That's okay. I respect you, but respect me. But don't expect me to have to make all of these changes for you. Yeah. This is all about just working together. I mean, it's kind of how it used to be, and we were all okay with it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm highly suspicious actually of that whole movement and agenda push, because I have a lot of friends that they're homosexual.
Yeah. Me too.
They don't think this stuff's okay. Some of the agenda that they're pushing in, the voices the things that they're putting out there are so absurd. In no way, I don't care if you are a straight person. There should be no way that you should have a parade where your boobs are hanging out or your penis is hanging out or your butt, and having a child in the child's face. Who thinks that that's okay? It's not okay. And it has nothing to do with being against someone who is a homosexual or a trans.
That's right.
It doesn't have anything to do with that.
I think a lot of these people are paid. I think that they're paid provocateurs.
They are.
Because I agree with you. I completely agree with you on this. That my gay friends just want to do their thing. They don't want to be standing out. They just want to live their life. They have kids that they've adopted, or they've had kids before they maybe they had a marriage and they had realized that they were gay, and they have children, but they're not casting their belief systems onto their children. They're letting their children have a natural childhood, and that's so important to them. But I think the real issue here is that there's an agenda coming out from like the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization that has another agenda for our children, because they want to normalize pedophilia. And I think that that's why we're seeing so much coming out now, and why all of the sudden this craziness stuff with the push towards transgenders. And I think it's a disservice to those who are transgender. Yes. Even when I look at our dementia president, I just think that he was exploited too. And it's very abusive to have put him out on the world stage for all to see how compromised he is mentally. And that's abusive. And we are going out and abusing all kinds and classes of people. Well, he could
I think he's
certainly,
faking, but that's a separate conversation.
he,
But I
he
agree with you.
certainly could be. But when you look at his gait and how he can't get his directions right and how he stumbles over his words, I know that he's had a couple of brain events where he's aneurysms, and that's probably caused some problems for him, and maybe the cause of an early dementia. But nonetheless, people who wanted to gain something from having him in the position he's in exploited him. And as much as I do not care for this person who leads our country, I think it was extremely unfair to him to do that to him.
Yeah,
It's abusive.
I agree. And one thing, kind of circling back to the division, and the fear and just the controversy that they like to paint. They go after certain classes of folks, and they infiltrate them. And you could be, just like Black Lives Matter. I know there's a lot of good people that are championing some of the ideas of Black Lives Matter, right? That not in the bad stuff. Just like you have people, I don't know what they're called on the other side or whatever, but whenever they show, I guess what I'm trying to say, whenever they show these riots and whatnot, okay, and they put the label on it and they're causing all this havoc, I refuse to believe that the average person that is going to protest something because that something that movement resonates with them, right? They get caught up in it, in something that there's a bunch of people that are infiltrated within it that causes like the January 6th stuff, where you had a bunch of patriot folks there that were there to hear President Trump speak and to go stand outside and say, please hear our cries. Please respect us. We want our votes heard, and we want you to investigate. We want you to do your job. Okay.
Right.
We're showing you in a visual that we don't agree with this. And there were some bad people in there that did stuff. And I'm saying, with the Black Lives Matter, the riots and stuff that happened, same thing. You had people that were going out there to raise issue with certain things that were going on. And you had animals coming in and pretending to be part of that movement and take over it. And then they're the face of it. And who do they have in there? The media. And the media use those little clips to entice people and antagonize them. And they play them over and over and over again, kind of like Versan was saying about the predictive programming.
Right.
They're just doing that with every single thing. And so we really need to fight back against that.
Weren't some of those provocateurs some of our undercover agents from the various 3-letter agencies?
Right. Yes.
And that's what's so sad.
There's a lot of people too that, if I try to point them in that direction or tell them a little bit of things, what I know, they think that I'm, okay, well, let's say you don't know what you're talking about. But I mean, even today, Joe Biden, I wish I had the clip. I just saw a clip right before we came on. Joe Biden's with Modi and a bunch of other people, and he literally says he sold state secrets. Like what? And the look on their faces was priceless. Like, okay, but he's not lying. He did sell state secrets, Well,
it's like, he lawyered up over the weekend.
I heard that.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they all need to have lawyers for sure.
Yes,
lawyers are kind of corrupt sometimes.
It's interesting in that. Can I share a story?
Yeah.
That I had heard yesterday when I went to church, and it was kind of I think for them to go make a change as much as they did, as far as how I'm sorry, I wanted to turn off these computer noises with the children, and they brought up 4 high schoolers, and they were describing what it was like for them when they got shut down. Some were just in the, the upper levels of middle school going into high school, and some just entered high school. They're now graduating. So, but they were in despair. And you would think that these kids who they go to Christian school and whatnot, they had a close network of people, but they were shut off from them. Their schools were shut down. The church was shut down. So their youth groups were shut down. All of their functions that they had together as groups shut down. And so the kids had, they're just being kids. We're all human, right? And some were feeling very despaired, and they were questioning their faith, and they were pulling away from each other. And they found that that was very difficult for them. And these are when they came back to the church and they reconnected after they somewhat got in some trouble and stuff like that, they realized it's because they had something to believe in. And that's what got them through and to where they are right now, that they had to reconnect with having something to believe in. And where we are right now is that the kids are being told they don't need mom and dad, that there is nothing to believe in, really. There is no God to believe in, or the God that they want you to believe in is somewhat demonic because of some of the things that are happening with the children, which we're all going to learn here when the Sound of Freedom comes out in a couple of days. That's going to, I think, really going to blow the lid off of all of this.
Oh, yeah.
But
sure.
It made me sad to hear these kids with their testimony of what happened to them. This was just 4 kids. And I can imagine how many hundreds of thousands of children. And we have heard about the suicides, of teenage suicide. I do know one person whose kid, they wanted a car. Dad wouldn't buy them a car. So mom and dad were separated. Mom helped daughter get a car, and she had planned this whole thing out. And she drove that car off a cliff without a seatbelt on. She knew better. No. But she wanted to end it. She left a note. This is all during this period of time. It just is heartbreaking.
Oh, devastating.
It is. And I just think this is a plan. This was all planned to divide our families, to divide people, to make them feel so despair, so that I think the grand plan is to be prisoners, if you will, without fences around us.
Well, yeah. I think it was hard enough back when my boys were younger.
Sure.
And I often had to tell their dad, relax, let them come home from school. And if they're kind of in a bad mood, or, they're on an upset mood, let them have time to unwind. We don't know what they go through at school all day, right? A lot of times the kids get home and they're like, clean up, you got to take your trash out, you got to clean it, you got to clean your room, and, all these things. And it's like, yes, we have to have the kids do that kind of stuff. We have to teach them, but we also need to listen to them and hear them when they're speaking to us, or sometimes just sense when they're not speaking to us, because there's a lot of things that go on at school that they don't really want to tell you about. And so, I mean, that's just in normal times, man. My kids were happy, great kids, but they still had their moments. And so I can only imagine think about the sports kid that was really popular in school and doing really good at sports. And then all of a sudden he's home and he's done. And, oh, sorry, you're not going to be able to play football your senior year. That's right. Devastating. And
or go to a prom.
It should be acknowledged how devastating that is. Right. A lot of people are just like, well, gotta, no, it's not. Oh, well, it's not. Oh, well.
You mentioned about, coming home and having a little time to decompress. I mean, isn't that what we do after we come home from work?
Yes.
right? You come home. I remember growing up is that give dad about 20 minutes when he
Yeah.
gets home from work.
Yeah.
Well, why shouldn't we give that to our children too? You know?
Absolutely. They need it.
Yeah.
And
So
they need to know, I'm on my mom's soapbox. The kids need to know that they have a safe place when they come home.
yeah.
This is the safe place for
And
us
it's a
to.
shame. It is such a shame how many children that are well, we're going to find out when this is a bit of a soundbite from The Sound of Freedom. And in case anybody hasn't heard about this film coming out, it was a film with Jim Caviezel. I don't remember who the other
Tim
actors are in
Ballard.
it. Tim
Oh,
Ballard. Yes.
Tim Ballard is the man, the life, the
Yeah.
movie.
It's
The
the
man.
expose about him. He was a CIA agent, wasn't he, or FBI? He was some sort of law enforcement agent who was rescuing these children out of bondage, out of being sold from handler to handler. And by the way, a lot of these children who are sold over time, they have an expiration date. Many of them, because of the things that they've been through and the things that they've done, um, they don't ever get out of that system. The only way they get out is when they're executed. And we're going to find out a lot more about this. The movie is called The Sound of Freedom, and it's releasing on the 4th of July.
Independence Day.
Independence
That's
Day.
what I'm like, you know what, Christy, there's so much information coming out right now. I feel like we were hit with a tsunami of crazy stuff as far as the lockdowns and all of that kind of stuff. We're about ready to get hit with a tsunami of truth, cold hard
Yes.
truth. And people are, I pray that people are prepared, or I'm just planning on being there for people, because I know that there's a lot of folks that they don't really want to know this stuff, but we have to acknowledge the only way that we're going to stop these terrible crimes against these children is to acknowledge that it's happening and make a change. Pay attention. Do you know that the United States is the top buyer of all of this? We're what
And Mexico's the top supplier.
Yep.
Or
And
South America, let's put it, the South American countries.
When you talk about, Tim Ballard was talking about the wall. And so I guess I just want to say, I'm like, when we think about all this politics and all these politicians and all the left versus right talking points that they put out there, and, Trump wants a wall and we don't want a wall, and they throw all these other things in there into the mix.
Yeah.
Tim Ballard spoke about something that was so important, where he said he was for the wall because it showed it was a dramatic cut in the amount of kids that were coming over, and it gave them at least a chance, an opportunity to stop them. It was a barrier for these kids just flooding over and getting lost over here. And I understand where somebody can have the mentality like, well, we want to have all the kids be able to come over, that we're saving them or whatever. You're not saving them. You're not saving them. If you don't know, you're not going to take personal responsibility for this child. You don't know where the child came from. It probably wasn't by willingly. And then they're going to disappear over here and no one's going to know where they're at. And that is not acceptable. And nobody should think that that's acceptable. And
it shouldn't be.
So
well, any normal minded person isn't going to think that's acceptable.
No, and the thing is that that's what they put, and I guess where they do the programming and the media push, which I think it's downright evil. What the things that they've pushed in the media, and I am going to say it, damn them, because they have created such a divide and put false thoughts in people's minds, false truths in people's minds, and they've perpetuated people's ignorance on subjects. And because we are so surface level, many of us are so surface level, we don't want to dive in a little bit deeper to find out. And I feel bad for those that are going to find out something that because they didn't dive deeper, and the things that they said and did, they're going to feel bad. And I just want to say to those people, don't beat yourself up. When you find out things, you have the opportunity to make a change and do something going forward. We can't change what we did in the past. We can't change the things that have happened in the past, but we damn sure can change the future, and we can be positive and we can move forward in the future. So I want people to be prepared, and I want them to know that they can make a difference. And
absolutely. And you might be trying to figure out, what is it that I'm called to do? I know for us, we were called to do this show, to go to bring out these stories that we have learned about. And many know, but many, many, many more people don't know. And what was conspiracy theory, we're finding out is absolute fact. And if I'd like to make a little segue, if you don't mind.
Yes. Segue
into
great.
One of our most favorite villains is BlackRock. BlackRock has a lot to do with a lot of this. You know, our second show, we had talked about the Great Reset and how BlackRock was well, you know, we know that there's a hierarchy in the world, and there's bloodlines, long bloodlines. I mean, going back, what?
I don't even know how
long. Hundreds of years, at least. That's being probably very conservative.
Yes.
But there are those bloodlines that, and we might call them policymakers, if you will. In the financial system, there is, you know, somebody that sits at the apex, and in the way that the world runs, they sit at the apex as well. And they're under huge hedge funds. And one of them is BlackRock. BlackRock is a huge hedge fund that owns a little bit of everything.
Everything.
Stocks, bonds, you name it. So they may not be the owner, if you will, of a particular company or whatever, but they own so many stocks and have so much influence that they can come in and execute a philosophy, one of which is called like ESG. And they've given it a new name too, the diversity, DEI, I believe.
Oh, yes. Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah. So they just had to change the name of ESG a little bit to the DEI, because I think they're trying to figure out what is more acceptable to people. But nonetheless, these have been disastrous for corporations who are trying to get a DEI score, an ESG score, that they're compliant, because BlackRock has so much influence over their corporations, even though BlackRock's not sitting in their boardrooms. They have the influence because of the stocks that they own. And they're pushing these policies down, and they're coming from the top. So you might say, like, BlackRock might be the policy distributor, if you will. They're the strong arm of the organization. I'm trying to be kind. And BlackRock, gosh, they were just OMG, the O'Keefe Media Group.
Oh,
Just did an expose on a BlackRock recruiter. Did you see that?
I did. They
Wasn't that incredible? It just goes back to verify what we've been reporting on. And this gentleman comes out unbeknownst, and, you know, of course, he's just blowing, you know, talking. Yeah, I don't know who he was trying to influence, but he was talking about the very things that we're reporting, and as an employee, you know, as a recruiter. So it's just
He's probably fired.
yeah, well, he took down his LinkedIn profile, and I think
I
he
would.
took down his Twitter profile too.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
if you get bamboozled by those undercover people, I mean, and I will say that they're preying on the humanity side or the human
right.
side of people, because all these people that are working for these companies, they're just people,
Sure.
a lot of them, well, the lower level, the people that they are enticing into these interviews or like these random conversations. I mean, most of them are kind of honeypotted where
Right.
I don't think this was the case on this one, but they definitely are tapping into people's vulnerabilities and getting them to talk for one way or another. But
Do you think that somebody helped him empty his desk? Or maybe his desk was emptied for
no,
him and he was
yeah,
escorted
no.
out the building?
Yeah, when you get fired from a company, like you get escorted out, you're not allowed to go back to your desk. So whatever he had at his desk, somebody else was packing it up for him. I guarantee it. There's no way he was allowed to go back to his office.
So if you
None.
want to, exactly. So if you want to know about BlackRock, we did a couple of shows. It's our second and third episode, and Melissa did a fabulous job. She broke down, actually, it's almost 4 shows or 3 shows. I'm sorry.
Episode 3 is the
Two,
BlackRock.
yeah,
Yeah.
2, 3, and 4. But we started off with BlackRock being introduced in under the Great Reset with episode 2. And then in episode 3, that was a dandy. You've got to go and listen to that deep dive and hear what you need to hear about Larry Fink. He's the CEO of
Yeah.
BlackRock.
And in the
He's a really
episode 3,
disgusting person.
in episode 3, I also go into the Aladdin
Yes,
software
you did.
because I keep trying to tell people this technology was not created today or yesterday. It's been 30 plus years they've been using software to manipulate us in the money for 30 plus years. And every company that bought that software, Aladdin software, they fed the data machine also. And so you wonder why they have so much information about you. That's part of the reason why too. So
isn't it interesting that BlackRock is coming out with a Bitcoin ETF and they're going to make it work? Now, they're not the first ones. The name of the company just escaped me, but they got approved for their ETF, and then BlackRock is right behind them. So I have to wonder, this is just, what's the saying go? Is when a new technology comes out, when you're looking at like Bitcoin, XRP, those top cryptocurrencies, if you will, and you get organizations like this, and you go, meh, it just kind of, go away. You're nothing. And then they start dismissing, and then they start trying to regulate. Then they sue, and then they join you. And we're in that join you phase, which is where we're at right now.
Since we're talking about this for a second, I wanted to say, I posted something on Twitter the other day. So I was in a conversation with a group of folks on, I think it was on Wednesday last week. And we were talking about Bitcoin and Tether. And I've always thought, I said, Tether, when I was a kid, Tether was something that the bad kids wore on their ankles. It was a tracking device for the juvie authority, right? So, the kids that were caught smoking weed, whatever, they went to juvie, whatever, they had to wear tethers on their ankles. So I've always associated that name, words matter, right? People pick logos and names for a specific reason. Well, so I always thought that. And then Bitcoin, I've always had the thought that it was created somehow by somebody like NSA or somebody at an upper level to have the kind of technological knowledge, using the SHA 256 and all of that. Had to be somebody super smart on a high level, right? And I thought originally when it was created, perhaps some bad guys might have had some thoughts of what they were going to do with Bitcoin. But the other thing I thought was, we went through a long period of time where Bitcoin is for criminals. You had the Mount Gox failure, and you had Silk Road, and you had Backpage got taken down, and all these people were using Bitcoin in the ransom stuff, and they've used Bitcoin, in my opinion, to the problem reaction solution, to solve a lot of the technological problems that they needed to solve in as far as cybersecurity. How do you get the public to demand this kind of stuff? How do you get the public to want regulation and all this kind of stuff? So they make it the big bad guy or whatever. But anyway, I always thought about the Tether Bitcoin connection, and I wondered, Bitcoin and Tether are so tied together. And if what I think is happening as far as the bad guys getting taken out over these past 7 years, I've been paying close attention. I'm wondering if Bitcoin was used as a tool to entrap some of these dumb bastards, sorry for my language, that thought that they fell into the Bitcoins for criminals and it's non-traceable and you're anonymous and all this stuff. And they don't know anything about blockchain, obviously, right? And so they got caught in a big old trap is what I'm wondering. And so I think it's serving more than one, purpose. And then of course you got Jason Lowery, like you love Jason Lowery, where he talks about Bitcoin being security and all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, they're using this thing for more than meets the eye than what we're being told. And so I don't know. I think that it's very interesting, and it's a possibility. And the fact that they're using it as an ETF, or proposing it, and Larry Fink is wanting to put that money together and put it off to the side. Then, oh, what happened to you? Oh.
Sorry about that. I'm back.
Oh, I was like, there's now a group. I didn't know what that was. Oh,
sorry about that. I'm getting so drowned out here. Sorry, folks. I know you're listening to all of this, but my face was getting so drowned out because we're having a thunderstorm come through and it got really dark in here and I had to go turn some lights on. My apologies.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I hope you don't mind. I think we'll leave this in the video, right? Is that okay?
Yeah. It'll just be my face like, wait, what? I was trying to,
what the hell?
What the hell happened?
Yeah. So I apologize.
Weather happened.
but you're right. I think Bitcoin is a bit of a pawn, if you will. But I also think that it's going to be playing a bigger part. I think Versan is right about XRP and Alan Staple. You want to go check out those interviews as well that we did with them. They've got some terrific insights on that. And that's what I think it was episode 13, 14, and 15. You're going to want to check those out. But like Melissa was talking about, I'm a big fan of Jason Lowery. Now he's just kind of he's gone, right?
He disappeared. Where'd he go?
But he made a clear point about Bitcoin being a national defense weapon.
Yep.
And I'd like to see how that plays out. I don't think that story is over by any means.
No, and this is what I was going to say, Christy, because it ties in together because money is the keystone of everything.
Yes, it is.
Criminals have been hiding and stealing and hiding the money forever, right? It's always been in the shadows. they thought they were going to be able to use Bitcoin in private, and they were going to steal this money. They were going to create this new financial system and swoop in and, screw everybody. And I think they got busted, stole cold, busted. And and then the other thing is that you got the Sound of Freedom coming out.
Yes.
The tie-in with the human trafficking aspect. And when that back page had a lot of shady shit that was on there. It wasn't just about the sex worker. I mean, there was other really bad stuff on there. So I think it's going to be the things that's going to come out, and Bitcoin's role in capturing them. I think it's going to be significant.
And why was Bitcoin kind of mooning this weekend? That was incredible. It had gone over $31,000. I know it's come down a little bit at this point, but I think the halvening has something to do with it. But I think there are other forces involved. I think something to do with BlackRock ETF. You start seeing large institutional money starting to come into the space. I think it's going to get distributed like among Bitcoin, Litecoin. You're going to have XRPs, the ISO 20,022 coins. I think that those are going to be big plays. And again, you can learn a lot about that in episode 13, 14, and 15. There's a little bit of a smorgasbord there for that stuff, and getting back to some of the stuff that we were talking about with the kind of the more clandestine type of things that were going on. The Brian O'Shea, I mean, he's brought up some pretty cool stuff as well. We did an episode there where it's called Unrestricted Warfare, and that was a very interesting show as well. Operation Choke Point.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And we're experiencing it again right now. I mean, look at the bank collapses. We're not even hearing about the most recent bank collapses. There was just a report out. I think it was like another 70 banks have closed. It's not even on the news.
No, they're not talking about it. They don't want to talk
They're
about
gone.
it.
So, and this Operation Choke Point is just there was a gun dealer in Wyoming where the IRS and the ATF went into this gun dealer's business and cleaned out all of the rifles that looked like they were assault rifles, the ARs. Cleaned this man out. They didn't have a right to go in there at all.
Wow.
And they tried they did a choke point on him. It was last week sometime. And bless this man's heart, he was able to say, I'm not closing. He was able to get more inventory in there and open back up again. It was such an infringement on his rights that it was brought up in some congressional hearings. Of course, we don't hear about that because, this is a sovereignty issue. This is, our Bill of Rights that are under attack. And this is why we're not hearing about it in the news. But I know that there were hearings about this up on Capitol Hill. So, this Operation Choke Point is moving in all directions. I mean, you've got the banks that have closed accounts. You've got businesses that were shut down. You've got banks that were friendly to cryptocurrencies that are now gone. Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Speaking of hearings, we did a double feature on the Gary Gensler.
Yes, ma'am.
Testimony. Yeah. And I tell you, I mean, I actually listened to the whole hearing for 4-something hours, but I know most people don't. So we went.
That was episode 7 and 8.
7 and 8. We tried to clip out the most important clips, significant clips. So if anybody's interested in that SEC hearing with Gary Gensler, check it out, because there's some doozies in there and well worth watching, in my opinion. Then gosh, What else?
Well, Lewis Jackson, we can't forget our friend Lewis. Oh my gosh, that was a dynamite interview. It was kind of low key. We hit quite a few subjects and got to learn more about Lewis. But if you follow Lewis, he talks a lot about XRP.
He does, yeah.
And he's quite a talented young man, and enjoy him a great deal. So
he's in a perfect example. Him and Versan both.
Yes.
It gives me hope too for the world. You have two young men in late 20s, early 30s, and they're driven. Lewis is just he's ever evolving. He's making and he's paying attention, to his mind, body, spirit, all that stuff, and making a plan and executing it. Very inspirational person. Love him. Great
I
person.
enjoyed him.
Mm-hmm.
Then we Hidden in Plain Sight. Oh, that was a great show. And then Who Are the Secret Societies? Now, we touched on the secret societies just a little bit. And of course, the top of the apex, we mentioned BlackRock, which you also have Vanguard and State Street. Vanguard being at the very, very tippy top, but they're very silent. I almost sounded like a Biden. Sorry. With the creepy whisper. Sorry about that.
Sorry about that. No, we talked about the secret societies and the Bush 9/11.
Oh my gosh.
That episode is 2 hours long, is an hour and 54 minutes. And we cut a little bit out with a Hidden in Plain Sight because it is so long, but man, it's packed full of clips and information of the secret society. It's very interesting, things that you wouldn't, you might not come across in your daily stroll through the internet type thing.
And the stuff about Epstein, and there was so much that we weren't able to report on because the content was so deep. And what we do, and we study all the time, and we have this curating software that we just drop these articles in. And we go through them painstakingly and read every one of them. We watch the videos. We do a lot of research and try to pull out the nuggets that seem to be interesting, maybe not heard of as much, and try to put them in some sort of comprehensive way to convey them to you.
Yeah.
We're getting better about that. Yes.
It's a lot. We're not, we'll be up front with you. We're not we're not going to be first to report on something. That's not our goal.
Not at all.
To be the first news reporter, because it's actually, if we may briefly touch on what happened the other day with Russia and the coup, and everybody's up in arms over something. If you give yourself 24 to 48 hours, things will maybe look a little bit different.
Right.
It's hard to kind of weed through that grass and all the shade everybody's throwing on everything, confusion that they're causing, and to find out what's actually really true. So here at Beyond the Brink, we might be a little bit slow, but maybe you'll circle back and watch our stuff, because
we try to be responsible.
We try to be responsible. Exactly. And we try to put, links to the information in there, for you as best we can.
Well, we've got a couple shows that are coming up that are going to be difficult shows to do, but it's all centered around, our children. And we're going to be talking about, I'm sure, the sound of freedom, but even more so about
we have a special
the pedophilia. Yes, we have a special guest, and it's going to be tough. And I think it's going to be probably a couple of shows, but this is probably, I'm going to say, the crescendo in terms of everything that's going on when you go after the children. That is so extreme. And I think that that's where everything is exposed. So there isn't any more plays out there. I think this is the final battle, is going to be over the children. Yeah. And we're going to be reporting about it. And I know we're going to have some broken hearts because just getting through this material is very, very hard. We've already read a few books of personal accounts from people. I know for me personally, I had to put the book down several times and couldn't pick it up and read it anymore for several days. And I didn't want to finish it, but I had to, so that I can have a good understanding about what was going on, so that we can bring this to you. And it's really a shame that we're here at this point in time and we're living through this period of time. It's unbelievable.
But I will say that with all of the things that are going on in the world that may seem doom and gloom,
yeah,
the beautiful thing is that we are all coming together. We
yes.
are being drawn to each other like a magnet. You subscribe to this channel because you, for whatever reason, you were meant to come here. And we hope that you stay with us, participate with us. Let us know what you want to hear. There's great things coming out of the other end, the beyond the brink, beyond. Well, what's pushed you beyond the brink? But then once you're at that brink, there is something beyond that's going to be greater, right? And we have the power to do that together. I fully believe that with every bit of my being, that together we can change this world.
And, absolutely. And if you don't do anything, then you won't be changing at all.
No.
It's kind of like asking a question. If I ask the question, I have a chance of a yes or a no answer. If I don't ask the question, it's always no.
Right. Right.
So if you don't take action, there won't be any changes that you're going to have any say in.
Yeah. And even if you to do nothing, you don't get anything done. To do something, you might mess up, right? Yeah. You might misspeak, you might offend someone, but you say, sorry about that. Let me fix that. Let me correct that. And
you still love you.
Yeah. Yep. And here we are going to do the very best that we can to pass on legitimate information. And we look forward to sharing what we find with you. So,
well, gosh, we're coming up to the end of the show here. Just want to say thank you very much for hanging in here with us and helping our channel grow. You can find us on Twitter and on Facebook. Where else are we? I know we're on YouTube and, the video channels and the podcast. We haven't grown the social media channels out as much as the video channels and our radio station, which is Vita Broadcast Network. So if you miss any of these videos, you can go right over there and you catch some documentaries that you may not find on our video channels at all. And if you go to our website, vitabroadcastnetwork.com, you'll find news feeds and resources, especially if you're looking into cryptocurrencies, for instance. Our resource area is wonderful. And somebody we haven't talked too much about was like Robert Breedlove and so forth. And those people who are into Bitcoin, you're going to find a lot of those resources under our resource section of our website.
Check out our Zero in Bitcoin video.
Oh, yes, definitely. Yep. That's a good one as well. That was a tough one to get through, but very interesting.
It was.
But if you have any suggestions or topics that you'd like to hear us report on, we'll do the research and we'll bring it to you. And if you have any interview ideas, perhaps you might want to be interviewed on our show.
Exactly.
Just reach out to us. We'd love to talk with you.
Yep. So, we're just a couple of regular people, and we would love to interview regular people. So
absolutely. Well, without further ado, I guess that we're going to call it the day and just thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.